come back, even as a shadow, even as a dream.
I want to start by asking you, what is art even? If you simply enter the question into a search engine of your choice, you might find the following definition on Britannica. Art is something that is created with imagination and skill, and that is beautiful and or that expresses ideas or feelings. Now, for a definition that is incredibly vague and as diverse as art can be, that just makes sense. But it is also not a very satisfying answer. Art can have many different forms and mediums. It is an essential part of culture. It is shaped by history and it reflects it. It is not restricted by a medium. I want to talk about the contemporary form of it, video games. Some may now raise their eyebrows and think that games are simply a mean to pass the time, but in my eyes, this is a disservice to the creative work that is behind them. When I was young, I often found myself comforted by the stories told and lived through video games when it seemed like the world would just not get you. It is the kind of magic when you see something for the very first time, and in our cynical and harsh world, it is difficult to rediscover the thrilling of wonder in adulthood. But it is not impossible, as I myself found out when I started playing Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a video game that has been released on April 24th of 25, and it has sold well over 5 million copies within its first 5 months of release. I too have been engrossed by the game, its storytelling and its visuals, and it has left a lasting impact on me. Today, I want to speak about how the game is telling a story about loss and grieving in a way that it can only be called a piece of art. We start the game with a wide-shot view of a bent Eiffel Tower. As the camera shifts, the Arc de Triomphe, split in half, reveals an imposing obelisk with 34 written on it in the far distance, and at its foot, a woman crouched together. The paintress. This is not Paris. This is Lumiere, and today is the day of the Gommage. It is the day where the paintress rises from her slumber and repaints the obelisk, decreasing the number by 1. And when that is done, every person of that age will vanish. It is a countdown of doom. As a player, we get introduced to Gustave and Sophie. Sophie is 33 years old. It is her last day. Lumiere celebrates the Gommage to bid adieu to its people, decorating the whole city in red and white flowers, appreciating the last moments granted together. As the sun sets down, time seems to stand still when the paintress stands up. One by one, the people disappear in a storm of petals, a beautiful display of cruelty, leaving behind orphans, family, and friends. Yet there's hope. Every year, an expedition sets forth to stop the paintress from painting ever again, to end the cruel cycle. Gustave, who we already got to know, is one of its members. Generally, the expeditioners have only 1 year left to live. In this year, however, Maëlle is an exception. She is 16, but she never felt at home in Lumiere and so decided to join the expedition. They rely on information obtained by past expeditions, following their motto, for those who come after. This is Expedition 33. Full of ambition, the ship departs, setting sail to the beach where the very first expedition went ashore 67 years ago. The moon casts their surroundings in a dim light, and when they leave the ship, they are not alone. There's someone, something, an impossibility. White hair, a wrinkled face, a scar covering an eye. An old man approaches, each step with his cane a warning. When the commander asks him who he is, his head got cut off without a word, and swiftly, all hell breaks loose. One by one, the expedition gets picked off by explosions and Lovecraftian monsters. Gustav tries to escape, but like the rest of his friends, he comes face to face with a monstrosity. It launches an attack, and fade to black, Gustav. But he has not died. He wakes up in the middle of a lush meadow. Catching his breath, his heart still beating in his eardrums, he tries to get a grip of his new surroundings. When one falls, we continue. Another expedition principle. And so, he continues on the lookout for other survivors. On the journey, he reunites with Lune, a scientist of the expedition, Mael, his adoptive little sister, and finally Ciel, a former farmer and teacher. Those four are all that remains of Expedition 33. The mission has not changed, bleak as the situation may be, and the group treks on. Past surreal landscapes, scattered and shattered sculptures, and piles of corpses of former expeditions, we continue. With the ship destroyed at the beach, the group is in the need of a means to cross the ocean. They find Esquier, creature of Lumiere's legends, to inquire his help. It leads them to the stone-walled cliffs to find Esquier's favorite stone, Flurry. Okay, I admit that part sounds a little weird. But Esquier really likes his stones. Sometimes you just need a silly little fetch quest. At the end of the path, the Lamp Master awaits. A tough fight, but the group emerges victorious and finds Flurry, the stone. Content enough, Lune and Ciel rejoin Esquier. Mael and Gustav remain behind to chat a little. Then, the sound of a cane. The white-haired man returns. Gustav does his best to protect Mael, but ultimately falls in front of her eyes. Before the man can cause further harm, he gets interjected by a strange man in expeditioner's clothing, allowing Mael to escape. He soon after joins the expedition at camp. His name is Verso, and he reveals that he is a member of the very first expedition, Expedition 0. Like the white-haired man, Renoir, he too is immortal. During the encounter with Renoir, there was also another girl. Colorless, scarred, her face half covered by a mask, but she unmistakably resembled Mael. Verso also wants to reach the Paintress, and so he rejoins the group on the mission. Stricken by grief by their recent loss, they continue. When one falls, we continue. And so they do, and eventually reach the Paintress obelisk. Inside the obelisk, the group revisits versions of past regions they have crossed to arrive at the final destination. Past the meadow where Gustav has woken up, through an underwater landscape, luscious forests, devastating battlefields, and finally, Lumiere, they face the Paintress. The fight isn't an easy one, but the group emerges victorious once again. As they put down the flag with 33 written on it, we hear the sound of an all too familiar cane. The group finally returns to Lumiere. Fireworks, laughter and cheering are welcoming them home, but the scene feels strange. Then the music shifts. The colors drain, and one by one, every man, every woman, every child, they disappear in a storm of red and white petals. The gommage. The screen fades to black, and we are allowed a glimpse into the past. Monolith Year 49.
You're okay.
Mile. No. Alicia. The scarred girl we have met before wakes up in her bed. Out of the bed, we can see the Eiffel Tower. Unbent. We are now in Paris. The girl is Alicia Descendre. After so many hours with the expedition, the truth is finally being revealed. Everything that has happened within the world of a painting. The family Descendre is a family of artists who can create marvelous paintings containing other worlds. 67 monolith years ago, a tragedy has occurred. Alicia has been lured into a trap, and to save her, her brother Verso has sacrificed himself. The flames have left the family without the son and brother. Alicia's skin burned, her voice lost, and the family in shadows. In her sorrow, their mother Aline has sought refuge in the only piece of Verso's soul remaining in this world, the painting he has created as a child. And there, she recreates her family, Verso, Renoir, Claire and Alicia. They are made and influenced by Aline's memories and feelings. This is especially apparent with the repainted Alicia, who was drawn with her scars, voice, and colorless. The grudge that she has taken Aline's son from her, visualized. Staying in the painted world for too long is not without its risks. The longer you stay, the greater the danger of submitting the body to detrimental damage. Renoir, fearing that he will also lose his wife, follows her and they get locked into a fight. He traps her on her obelisk, and she imprisons him underneath it. Every year, Renoir erases part of the painting. The number on the obelisk is a warning to the people of Lumiere of her waning powers to hold off Renoir. To end the battle, Alicia got sent into the painting, but she has gotten caught by Aline, and thus was repainted as the girl we got to know as Maëlle. When the expedition has won the fight against the paintress, Renoir got freed. Being erased from the painting allowed her memories as Alicia to come back, and with both memories united, Maëlle can return to the painting. It also enables her to be a paintress herself, and so she can bring back her friends from the expedition. The final battle of the game is against Renoir, a final showdown at Lumiere where everything has begun. The group confronts him under the warped Eiffel Tower, finally bringing him to his knees. Alicia is arguing with her father. She loves the painting and her friends, and she doesn't want to see them erased. Renoir fears that she is just as stuck in the painting as his wife was, and for that as long as the painting exists, they both would not be able to resist its call, an irresistible drug. Yet, he tires of fighting his family. It is not a fight he wants, but one he deems necessary. He gives in, hoping that someday his daughter will return to him. Verso recognizes that Maëlle has no intention of ever leaving. He enters the core of the painting, containing the piece of Verso Descendre's soul. When the painted Verso arrives, he sees a young boy painting tirelessly, saying he doesn't even remember why he does it. He approaches the boy, but before he can do anything, Verso gets stopped by Maëlle. And now, it is up to the player to decide the fate of the painting. Up until now, the game had a relatively linear storytelling that the player was not able to influence, sitting in the passenger seat. The core conflict of the game is caused by a family in grieving. Aline and Renoir fight, and the world of Claire Obscure must suffer in consequence. But as we learn more about every character, the more we see that there are no villains, there is only hurt. When we grieve, there is no satisfying solution. Grief is a highly personal emotion and is experienced and dealt with differently for every person. Most will be familiar with the 5 stages of grief. This model has been invented by the psychiatrist Elisabeth Kübler-Ross in 1969 by studying her terminally ill patients, and it has since been generalized for negative life changes. Yet, grief is not a nice little sequence of emotions you just work through. Before her death, Kübler-Ross said, They were never meant to help tuck messy emotions into neat packages. They are responses to loss that many people have, but there is not a typical response to loss, as there is no typical loss. Our grieving is as individual as our lives. In the game, we experience how the different characters deal with their situations. Not only is there Versus demise, but the whole world of Clarobscur is tragically used to sorrow. Every year, the loved ones got taken away by the Gommage. The citizens of Lemire celebrate the Gommage, cruel as it may be. There's practicality in their approach. Enjoy the time that you have left together and make the best out of it when you can't change it. The existence of the expeditions proves their headstrongness and that the people are not willing to just take their fate that has been bestowed upon them by beings they can't control. Aline as such is torn apart by the pain and tricks herself fully into thinking that their painted family is her real one. She represents when someone fully submits to their escapism, fleeing from an unpleasant reality they cannot endure. And the cost of this is the rest of the family, who also experiences the same soul-crushing reality. Renoir remains deeply in love with his wife and cannot stand to see her lose herself in the painting. But it is not like he hates the painting. He too loves his son. He also sees the persons of Lumiere as real. But stuck between a rock and a hard place, he needed to decide.
Life keeps forcing cruel choices.
He cannot change that his son is no longer there, but he could fight to keep his wife and his daughter. Maëlle, in addition to her grief, is also riddled with remorse. After all, Verso has sacrificed himself to save her life. She misses him so much. She cannot see the love the rest of her family has for her, and it makes her feel lonely beyond measure. In the painting, she has friends, family, and even Verso, although she is conscious that it's not really him. He does remain a brother figure to her. Verso is plagued by difficult feelings. He loves Maëlle, but just his existence alone is cause of sorrow to him, knowing he can never replace the original. He wants Maëlle to grow and heal, and he only thinks this possible without the painting. The conflict between Maëlle and Verso is mirroring their parents' dilemma. During the game, the player can find journals that give us more information about the world. One note is especially interesting. In it, Renoir tells us,
And art can be a window, and art can be a mirror. And great art is both.
we often hear that an artist puts his soul into an artwork, and we appreciate art when it touches something within us, when we feel emotions and can build a connection. And, of course, when both come together, it does make great art. So, after spending hours within the world of Clarobscur, it suddenly holds up the mirror and asks the player, what do you decide to do? Siding with Maëlle means to keep the painting, keeping her friends, and her life as an able-bodied girl. Renoir and Verso both fear that she will fall into the same trap as her mother did and succumb to the painting's allure. To top it all off, Verso, he's tired of living, of his existence. The knowledge of being repainted weighs heavily on him. Forced to have inherited the memories and feelings of his deceased counterpart and unable to die, he begs Maëlle to end it for him, but she bargains to let him age naturally instead, to be able to enjoy life again. After making the choice to stay in the painting, we are entering the opera, and it seats all of Maëlle's loved ones, including Sophie and Gustav, smiling as if nothing has ever happened. It is the day of Verso's concert. The camera shifts to him on the piano, and the presentation switches to a 3:4 format in black and white, reminiscent of French noir movies. Verso is tense, and when he looks into the audience, he finds Maëlle staring at him, half smiling, her eyes painted over, stuck in the painting, unable to leave. Just like her mother. On the other hand, when siding with Verso, it means the end of him and the rest of the painted world, to erase all existences, forcing Maëlle and Aline to face their reality. The scene changes to the family de Centre standing in front of Verso's grave, finally reunited, broken, but given a chance to heal and to continue. Alicia looks up and sees her friends from the expedition one final time before they disappear in a sea of flower petals. The discourse online is passionate about which ending is the better one. People go as far as to call Verso's ending genocide for ending a whole world population, and people who prefer mild said delusional escapists. They are all touched by the characters' experiences, and the writing is speaking to them on a deeper level. When I grew up and went through difficult times, my mother used to tell me that the earth keeps on spinning. Back then, I thought it was to be cruel and harsh. But the game did change my perspective. Losing a person is one of the hardest experiences. But the memories that you made with them, the love you feel for them, they remain. And they live on with you. Reality is a cruel mistress. But as long as there will be a next day, there is hope. There are possibilities. Tomorrow comes.